I'm Julie Barkey with Senate Update. Should all Minnesota families with small children be eligible for a tax credit? Well, a proposal unveiled in a news conference on Wednesday by State Senator Karin Housley would provide $1,000 to all families with children under the age of 5.
Governor Dayton has proposed a $100 million child tax care credit for those families who have costs associated with child care. I don't feel that goes far enough. All parents in the state of Minnesota have costs when it comes to raising children. Today I'm proposing a toddler tax credit. Whereas every family would get a $1,000 tax credit per child for each child under the age of 5. This would provide nearly $500 million in tax relief for young Minnesota families. The budget surplus tells us that the state is collecting too much money. It's time to start giving some of that money back to our taxpayers. What better way to give it back than to help young families when they were just starting out? The costs that go along with raising young children put a lot of financial strains on our families. Any type of tax relief that we can give these families would be a welcome break. The toddler tax credit is modeled after the federal child tax credit and Governor Dayton's proposed child care tax credit. It would be non-refundable, have no income limits, and apply to families of an estimated 250,000 children. Senator Hand, did you want to add?
I can make a couple of comments. As Senator Housley mentioned, this is really part of a larger effort that we've been making to deal with the surplus. And we don't know quite how large that will be. There's a lot of expectation that on Friday it will even be larger than what we saw in November. We believe that we're over-collecting money, that we need to deal with the surplus in some way by returning it to taxpayers. We had a bill a few weeks ago about the Social Security tax, income tax that we collect that other states do not. Senator Housley's bill would also provide relief to families with children. We like the governor's idea, but we think that I think his bill or his idea accounts for about $100 million of a billion-plus surplus, and this would go a long way to getting more of that over-collected money back in the hands of the people of the state of Minnesota. We think this is a good idea, and we look forward to having positive action from members of the House and the Senate on this bill. And we'll take questions.
Senator, are you proposing this tax credit in addition to the governor's early child care tax credit?
Sure. I think they don't have to be exclusive. We're not saying that the governor shouldn't do what he's doing. We kind of like his idea, but we think that it's pretty narrow in its scope, and it doesn't really address the billion-plus problem, if you will, of having too much money in the state accounts. So this is a way to try to add on to that. So we're not saying that the governor shouldn't do what he's doing.
Senator Hand, as I recall it, weren't you critical of the governor's proposal for not being means tested, and shouldn't this be means tested?
I think what I was complaining about the governor not having means tested was the idea for free daycare and free college, and we think that in some respects that if you're going to address those things and try to address a need, you ought to have some way to determine what that need is. So that was my criticism. I don't think that I had made the same comment about his child care tax credit. And I think that his proposal does have some upper limit to it, so I think it's a higher limit than the current tax credit. It's just building on what we currently have and making it available to more people.
Aren't you in effect, Senator, doing, I guess for lack of a better term, an income transfer from folks who don't have kids to folks who do have kids? Aren't you picking winners or losers, which is something Republicans talk a lot about not doing?
Well, this mirrors the federal tax credit. So we're taking exactly what the federal tax law provides and applying it to Minnesota.
That's just because the feds did.
We're trying to right. There's something about consistency that we want to honor that. But I think that because there is no income limit on the tax credit, there's no income limit in this one either. So I can't tell you whether it's a transfer or not, but it would apply to everyone who has children.
And Governor Dayton's proposal for the $100 million for the child care tax relief, not only those with using child care have costs when it comes to raising children. All families that have young children have costs. So this is giving tax relief to all of the young families in Minnesota.
We've been looking for various ways that we could take the over-collected money that would be the surplus and return it to the people of Minnesota. And we're trying to find ways that would be we think, helpful and also consistent with some of what the legislature is talking about today, and emphasizing the need that families with children have is a good thing, and we're all on board for that, and this is just one way to help accomplish two things with one bill.
Can you, Senator, with some of the other things that are competing for this $1 billion or whatever it turns out being at the end of the day on Friday, transportation, some of the other things, how at least some Republicans want to use part of that for transportation, some other needs. This is taking a significant chunk out of it. There isn't enough there, is there?
Well, first of all, I think that the surplus, in our view, should largely be used to do some sort of tax relief, tax reform. That's the general principle. We, of course, on our side, we don't get to write the budget, but the other proposals that we've made, and I think some of the ones the House have made about doing more money for transportation, for example, or education, those don't require that money come from a surplus. They could reflect a change in priorities in the current budget structure. Recalling when we were in the majority a few years ago and we had a $5 billion shortfall, and we were able to manage that and reduce the rate of increase. We're not really talking about cuts here. Let's remember that we're really talking about slowing down the rate of increase in what government spends. So we think that those commitments to try to increase funding to transportation or education or anything else can come from setting different priorities in the current budget.
Senator Housley, do you have this in a bill at this point?
It's being drafted right now. Hopefully, we thought we'd have it by right now, but it's coming by the end of today, and then I'm hoping to get it dropped by tomorrow.
It'll be introduced tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Tomorrow.
Have you got a commitment? Well, I guess you kind of have to have a bill to have a commitment for a hearing, but have you at least gotten some sort of tentative commitment from the appropriate chairs to get a hearing on this?
I thought I'd wait until I got the bill in my hands and then give them a call.
Yeah, fair enough.
If I read this correct, it costs about $500 million?
Yeah, that's an estimate that we don't have a fiscal note, obviously, for this, but we were looking at taking an estimate of how many young children there are by cohorts in the current public education system and just multiplying out over 5 years. But it's hard to come up with a precise number until you get the fiscal people to look at it. But I guess some of the bills that the Democrats have introduced have been a little bit light on what their numbers total up to as well. So this is an estimate, and we think it'll be in the ballpark when it gets costed out.
You dropped the hint, so I'm going to follow up and ask, how much are you expecting the budget surplus to be on Friday?
I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows except maybe the commissioner, and I don't think he's telling anybody except maybe the governor. I'm not sure about that. But the kind of the rumors around campus are that it's going to be a little bit better than what we saw in November, but how much, I have no idea.
Thank you.